Well, we've moved across to the front of the house and to the main beds, flower beds at the front here. And another area of kind of cleared land behind here, John.
Yeah, it's definitely, we've definitely reduced the diversity of things somewhat, and whilst we're busy replanting at the same time, it's just sort of trying to get on top of things a little bit. Of course, we're really keen. You can see the bed behind you. That is very much untouched. We have hardly done anything to that since we started here.
Yeah.
It will, however, have to get some attention. There's just a few things in these borders that have taken over and won that battle of, Ronnie's very open approach to letting just things do their own thing.
So we've got mixtures of
we've got red campion,
the irises.
Yeah.
Euphorbia at the back here.
Yeah, so
you're happy with kind of things that are wild, like the red campion, and things that are planted. I mean, this mix again, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. We want that, that distinct wildness in these borders that is such a key feature of this garden for, the last 50 years, really. However, there's a few things in there like bindweed, like leucodium, which are these giant snow belts, snowflakes.
Yes, yeah.
And they're very leafy things. They sort of take over and they smother things. And they are really plants that just get in the way of that diversity that we're trying to do, because we're trying to cram as many plants per square meter into ththese beds as we really can. And of course also have a few rarities in and amongst them that will need that bit more space. So it's a delicate game, and so that's why what we've done with a lot of the beds, like the one we're standing in front of as well, is they are cleared, and this year we're just really keeping a good eye on them to make sure that we're rooting out anything that we do not want in there, so that they're ready to replant properly, and they don't get immediately reinvaded by rhizomes of couch grass or ground elder. As much as these things are appreciated at the periphery and in the wilder parts of the garden, this front section is going to be a bit more formal.
Yeah. So we've got
a Rosa gallica.
Yeah.
So John Nash was a big fan of these. It's Rosa Charles de Mille. And he painted this amongst others, like the Rosa Mundi behind us, which is another gallica, for his book English Garden Flowers.
Yes.
And this one is a really well-behaved one, actually, because this Rosa Charles de Mille has been grafted onto Rosa canina. So the only thing you get with it sometimes is the odd sucker of the wild native dog rose that it's grafted on.
Right.
The bed behind which is behind the camera right now, however, has been completely covered in this rose because it was planted on its own roots there, and then it becomes a real suckering monster. And so that really took a lot of digging with our volunteers. They did a fantastic job in clearing that out, and again, we're just trying to keep on top of it now, and then next year hopefully we can plant it all up when we know that we're rid of it. Behind us you can see is a fairly broad expanse that has now recently been wood chipped. Now that bed is going to be our new stock bed, because it's one of the few that we can be actually very certain that it is, for the most part, free of these aggressive plants, because it was just a complete forest of bramble, and it had grown so high that there was just no chance for anything herbaceous to establish underneath.
Okay, right. So once you got rid of the bramble, job done.
Yeah,
exactly.
And so rid of the bramble with the help of our volunteers, mulched it, and now we can plant it up with all the things from the other beds that we want to save whilst we clear them out.
Perfect.
So and then in the long run, with seed and with potted plants, we'll be re-establishing everything to a similar wild feel.
Right. So we've got cuckoo flower?
Although we do actually around here, but it's been mown off by now.
Yeah.
But this is rosy garlic, so this is another plant that we inherited from John Nash.
Okay.
And then this has been underplanted with a lovely historic peony that originated from Helmingham Hall, where I used to work, so it's just something that I still had at home.
Right.
And it's actually going to be a surprise. I don't know what it's going to flower like, because it's been so young.
So we walked past, in the first film, we stopped and had a look at the peony that was coming up, and that's now in flower. So
yes, it is.
So we'll just patch in a picture of that. Lovely
Yeah, on
lovely
that one,
kind
we're
of
lucky this
lemon yellow.
Yes, and
yeah.
the lemon yellow peony, Ronnie wrote it only ever gave him one flower each year, but it always came up. And this year we've got 2 flowers, so it's nice to see our changed regime of giving plants a bit more room to breathe where it matters, and clearing canopy a little bit, and competition. It does help certain plants like them just perform that little bit better without really sacrificing the wild feel of the garden.
Yeah. And also with a little bit of clearing. So the big ash here that had kind of really closed the canopy and was a bit dangerous with the limbs as well. That's now looking quite different. They're looking kind of calmly standing just by the stream.
Well, I hope that the ash can be seen in the picture of the camera. But yes, so we've invested a lot of work into this ash tree because we knew we caused so much, in quotes, destruction elsewhere, like with the poplars, and we've removed habitats in the process. Of course, our aim is to preserve the place as much as it is to bring it back to something that is a bit more manageable. And more diverse. But this, like ancient ash trees, have become very rare in our landscape, and this very much goes into the champion, size scale now, slowly.
Yes.
It's just become very, very lanky because it was so overgrown with this ivy. And the ivy in itself was fantastic habitat, but that's where now that this is going to be a public garden, we have to strike a chord between health and safety and habitat. And so there was a lot of back and forth with our head of conservation at the Wildlife Trust and, people that came to advise us on how to proceed with these tree works. And we ended up deciding on removing the top half of the ivy and keeping the bottom as an homage. And hopefully this is going to lead to the tree, now that the light can hit its branches, it's going to lead to the tree again responding with some epicormic growth, meaning growth from the old barked wood.
Right.
And
Lovely.
it's going to bush out a little bit more, because before it's just tried to grow away from this ivy. That was just not allowing any regrowth further down the trunk. And the tree could prove to be fantastic habitat, as is our giant ash tree further down, which has had less ivy encroachment and therefore a much more healthier developed crown.
Lovely. Yeah. Well, it's a gorgeous. We're standing on a gorgeous spring day today, and we're getting a kind of sense of what this is going to look like during the summer and during the course of the year. A couple of hopes for the next 3 months. What are we going to see coming up, do you think?
Well, I do a lot of propagation at home, and so a big hope of mine is that now, before it really gets super hot, as the summer starts, we're able to get a lot of the plants that I've got at home in the ground here, so that they can establish in this new stock bed. That's going to help me do a lot less watering, and that's already going to massively increase the diversity of the planting that we have here. But otherwise, it is still very much a time of looking as well, because as we have cleared these beds, it has opened up to light the soil again that has been covered by ground covering plants like the periwinkle that grows everywhere here for years. And so that has allowed things to come up that I have not noticed last year, one of which being in this bed, and I've since dug it up and rescued it because we needed to get underneath it to get at other roots. But we had Fritillaria pyrenaica in here. At least I can extrapolate, it hasn't flowered, that it is pyrenaica, because we had a similar plant flowering elsewhere. And this is very likely to have come from Benton End and Cedric Morris gardens. So it's really nice to have that connection.
Pyrenean fritillary? Lovely.
From the Pyrenees, and it's one that Cedric Morris loved to grow. There's in fact a cultivar named after him. We know that the two men, Nash and Morris, were always exchanging things. If you look through the old diaries of John Nash, you will find a lot of entries of him just saying, I went to Benton and traded these plants. So these are the little nuggets of information. So, another hope for the coming months is that we'll be able, with the help of volunteers, to delve a bit deeper into those historic sources that are very hard to, make your way through in order to find those nuggets of gold of information that will be really, really useful to inform how we establish.
We tie the story back to the kind of cultural beginnings of the garden as here by painters and artists. Benton End just a few miles in this direction, down the valley and up the the Brett
Yes.
further down. We've got the formal part of the garden and the woodland and the orchard, and we've got wildlife all around us. Fantastic work, really great stuff, John.
Thank you very much for coming.
Look forward to getting part 3 of the story in the summer. So,
Yes.
John Zerr, thanks very much indeed.
Thank you, Jules.